Hey friends, thanks for checking this out. I just want to share a short devotion with you on trust and provision. How many of you would say that you easily trust people? I'm not raising my hand because I probably trust about 5 people, maybe. It is difficult for me. There has even been long periods of time in my walk with God that I have struggled to trust him, to see that he can provide for all of my needs. In my Bible reading time today, the Israelites are just getting ready. They've come out of slavery. They're in the wilderness. They've made this cool tabernacle, this tent to meet with God. And God has now told Moses to send out 12 spies into the land of Canaan. Well, Moses tells them to check out the produce. He wants to see if there's any good stuff out there, if they're going to have to run to Target to get what they need. And the spies end up finding these huge grapes. They get carried on poles. Let me read this for you. This is in Numbers chapter 13, verse 23. It says, when they came to the valley of Eshcol, they cut down a branch with a single cluster of grapes, which was carried on a pole by 2 men. They also took some pomegranates and figs. I don't know whether you're into pomegranates and figs and grapes, but don't miss this. They had some yummy food going on. They've only been eating manna, which is like this bread cakey stuff, which sounds delicious. But like the chapter right before this, they're whining and complaining that they haven't had any meat. They want something different other than the same old thing every single day. So what they find is abundance. All right, what else I don't want you to miss here that I noticed today? This whole time that they've been out in the wilderness building the tent, I wasn't really sure what time of year it was or anything, but I was looking at some notes. When they checked out the promised land, that's what it's called, the land of Canaan is the promised land because God promised it to them. The grapes were just coming in to harvest. God was getting ready to send them into the promised land at a time of harvest. So they hadn't planted any crops because remember, they're surviving off the land. They had done none of that, but yet God was getting ready to send them into a place that already had food, that had everything they needed. But guess what? They missed it because they were too afraid to take a step. They didn't trust God to fight their enemies. They didn't trust God to provide all that they needed to take this land. So I had a couple thoughts. Maybe you can relate. So instead of responding in faith, they responded in fear. And this is what they got. Instead of a rich harvest, they got more manna. Instead of fertile land, they got more wilderness. Instead of a new lavish home, they went back to camping. How many of you can relate to that? Is there something that God is calling you to walk into? Is there a higher standard that God is calling you to? Maybe it's more holy living. Maybe it's spending time with him. Maybe it's going back to school. Maybe it's repairing a broken relationship. Maybe God has asked you to forgive someone who's hurt you or betrayed you. If you don't step into it, you can't see what God has on the other side of it. Think about that for a second. Maybe there is something lavish and extravagant that God wants to do for you, but you have to step in obedience. What is God preparing me for? That's what I'm asking myself today. What has God been preparing for me that I'm afraid to step into? Second question, what might I be missing out on because I don't trust God to go before me? because that's what we see with the Israelites. He's going to go before them. He's already prepared a harvest. He's also going to fight for them, but they have to take a step of obedience. And the last question, this is the big one. Is it worth staying behind and missing out on the blessings that God has for you? I hope that challenges you. It challenged me today, because together we want to walk by faith into all that God has for us. Have a blessed day.